Hey gang, how you doing tonight? It's Patrick. Uh, I got an interesting. That's my chair. Hold on. Uh, there we go. I don't look like I'm sinking into the bottom of the screen. Uh, I got an interesting reminder on Facebook yesterday. I meant to do this video yesterday, but things got out of hand on the day job, and I kind of lost track of time. But 6 years ago yesterday was when I was told I could start talking about the the crew packs for uh, for Star Trek Adventures, and I had touched on it, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now when I was talking about the animated series supplement, about how the stats weren't exactly the same as the ones in the crew pack, and uh, just let me kind of tell a little bit of the story about how these things came to be, because they there's some contention about them. Uh, Back in 2016 when were writing it, and early 2017 when we were playtesting it, we had brought up the fact that we didn't have any of the iconic crews in the uh, in the core book, and that was intentional from the beginning. The game, uh, from Chris and Sam's uh, point of view, Chris Birch, the owner, president, chief poobah of Modiphius Entertainment, and Sam Webb, the he was the project manager at the time. She transitioned not long ago, but when at the time it was still he. Um, Sam and Chris both made clear that the game was about the player characters, and that was the focus of it. And we said, okay, well, that's cool. As long as we know what's going on. Uh, and I think it was sometime before Gen Con. I think the book was being printed, and Sam came to a few of us and said, okay, plans have changed a little bit. We don't know where they're going to turn up, but we are, in fact, going to do the iconic cruise. At the time, we had the 5 series. We had the original series, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise. Discovery, I don't think had even been announced yet. I think that I don't think that happened until later in 17. I can't remember. In any event, we didn't have the license, so it wasn't really a major deal at the time. But they came to us and said, we're going to do this. Anyway, it was me, Aid Smith, Jake Ross, and Jack Geiger that they approached, because I think the 4 of us have really been kind of the ones who commented on it the most. And I said, hey, we're going to do these. We need you to write them up as player characters. Boom. There we go. And we didn't know what kind of product they were going to wind up in. If Sam knew, he wasn't talking about it. Sam and Chris, probably had an idea. They, considering their process, I can't imagine they didn't have an idea. We're just going to sell individual little PDFs with the characters in them. which has sparked some controversy because some people see it as cheap and just a way to make a quick buck off the loyal fans. And I don't really see it that way. I definitely see the utility of keeping the books always focused on the players' characters. And with a lot of NPCs and stuff like that, but the main focus, the heroes of the game are the player characters. And I never really had a problem with that. So we wound up with these. This is the only thing I did not write, and I want to be transparent. This isn't really a review, at least not of my contributions to this, because this is the original series. I wrote this. I wrote basically everything except Enterprise. Don't know if Aaron Pollier wrote the Enterprise for this one, or if Nathan Dowdell did. But I know I did not write the ship, even though the ship is every bit as much a character. But you got the standard characters. You got Captain Kirk, you got Spock and McCoy, Scotty Sulu, Uhura, Chekhov, you got Nurse Chapel, and you got the Enterprise. And these particular characters came about because these were the 8 characters in the miniature set that was either about to come out or had just come out for the original series. You had the original series bridge crew, and these were the 8 characters in it. It wound up being the same way for the Next Generation set. Aid Smith said, "Hey, here you go. These are the 8 characters we want you to write." So you get Picard, Riker, Troy, Crusher, Data. They have the good sense to include a playable species write-up. Geordi, Worf, and Tasha Yar, who was in the miniature set. So again, that was why those particular characters showed up in that in those 2 character packs. And Jacob Ross and Jack Geiger and I, when it came to the Enterprise pack, were given slightly more reign and kind of given allowed to make a couple of choices, because we were under the impression that there were miniature packs coming out for those series as well. As most of us know by now, this did not in fact happen, but it was the plan. So Jacob was proposing Cisco, Kira, Worf, O'Brien, Jadzia, Bashir, Odo, Quark, and Garrick. And then you also, of course, you had the Defiant and Station itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe Garrick wasn't going to be a miniature. I don't remember. He was very important, of course, in the story, but I think they're limiting us to like 8 minis when they were talking about it. And I really believe at the time they meant to follow through with that. planned on putting out those miniatures. And then they started becoming very successful with other game lines. It was the same thing with Voyager, Janeway, Code Tuvok, the Doctor, Lana, Tom, Harry, 7, 9, 10. No, there are 10 characters in this one. I don't know what characters they had planned the Voyager set, because after they put the TOS and TNG character packs out, there was a pretty long dry spell. I've been calling it development hell. About the others, all these were written about the same time. I know for certain that the TOS and Enterprise packs were written within a week of each other, because I finished TOS, took a weekend off to do other things, and then I wrote the Enterprise stuff. Made scads and mistakes along the way, but that's another story for another time. But I pretty much stuck to 8 characters for this, because 8 miniatures. That's why you got Archer, T'Pol, Tucker, Reed, Sato, Mayweather, Phlox, and Shran. Yeah, actually, I did not write Enterprise for this. Does it show? Yeah, Nathan did that. Nathan wrote Enterprise for this one, so I'm assuming he wrote Enterprise for TOS as well. But I know some people have commented to me how I didn't make use of like the command, science, and operations source books. Didn't happen. They didn't exist. That's why. Everything here, with the exception of like one talent that Hoshi Sato has, were all out of the core book. All the talents in TOS were straight out of the core book, because that's all I had at the time. And this is what we had. Talent, by the way, was her translation, her natural linguist talent, where she could translate things on the fly. And that's about the only thing I made up that wasn't in the book. But that is how those first 5. But there's a span of like 2 years. The TOS and TNG packs came out in early 2018. And Enterprise, I think Voyager came out in 2020 as well, but Enterprise didn't come out until 2020, even though they were all written at the same time. And then a little while later, this is the only one that has ever come out that was nothing but NPCs, the iconic villains. And again, that was lined up with a miniature set. My favorites, the Gorn. He's my friend. He says, with a certain sense of sarcasm, because it is the Gorn prepares to throw a huge rock at me. This is also the first cross era package. Maybe I think it's the only cross era, because again, it's NPCs. But this was Aid and Nathan and Sam put this one together. And we kind of have shied away from And these things have evolved as we've gone along, because once Jim Johnson took over as the line editor, the program manager, program project, the chief chef and bottle washer for Star Trek Adventures. He, of course, began putting his spin on things. I think, yeah, I think this was a Jim Johnson. Yeah, there it is. Sure enough, project manager. So this is another one of Jim's things. I don't know how well it did, honestly, but when we finally got the license for Discovery and Picard, he had started to do things a little differently, try to pack a little more value into that $5 or whatever these things run on DriveThru. And he also started doing them. I'm not 100% sure about doing them season by season, but I like being able to kind of see the growth and change. And the fact is, I did work on one of the seasonal ones, the Picard season 1. I wrote like half the characters in there. Michael Dismuke wrote the other half. But the bulk of these, the Discovery, all have most of the usual suspects. Her Majesty, the Emperor. But then start adding, when you start throwing in some supporting characters for the show, as well as the ship. Since there's so much that changed over the course of that, that's how we got Captain Pike and Spock, Commander Reno. Again, supporting characters this time. We got Una for her big reveal in Strange New Worlds. One of these days, hopefully, we'll get the license for that, because that's going to be a lot of fun to work on. I can't wait. But who knows? Then we got the transition for Discovery Season 3 moving to the 32nd century. Again, you still got the usual suspects, but I do like being able to, since there are new lead characters in each season, I do like being able to see the different main characters. I do like being able to watch the transition in some of the characters, the growth, the changes. So from that standpoint, yeah, it's a good thing that we do it on a seasonal basis. But there's a part of me that wishes we had more Discovery at the time. We could have done like a bigger a bigger supplement, more like the animated series. But what do I know? I'm not in charge of things, and that's probably for the best, because I would probably have messed something up, because I don't have the same kind of drive and focus that Jim does. Jim is superhuman in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. some of the rules for the 32nd century ships, which will also wind up in Captain's Log later on, which I thought was a nice touch. And we did the same thing with Picard. Like I said, I wrote half of this. Michael Dismuke wrote the other half of the characters. At this point, Aaron Pollier had, and he did the same thing in the Discovery packs. But he's the one who wrote all the ships. There are very few products of ships in them that Aaron didn't touch. But I really like what he did in here. But I did Picard, Michael did Rios, I did Raffi, he did Girardi, he did Soshin 7, and I did Elnor and Narek. Considering I've never been a particular fan of Romulan, it's amazing that I got the 2 Romulan player characters to write up. I also wrote up Narissa. So I got all the Romulans in the book. Go figure. I have since come to a much greater appreciation of the Romulans, the long anticipated, long desired Romulan player character write up. But I did Narissa and Hugh. He did, Michael did Dodge and Riker, and of course Aaron's work with the ship. One of these days, well, now that Picard is finished, I don't know what the plan is. If there's going to be a 25th century source book, a lot of the ships are already there in Utopia Planitia. We'll have to see. That's another one where, if we had perfect foresight, which of course we did not, we'd have been able to maybe plan something different, but we've been able to start including Discovery and Picard stuff in other books now. I believe there's stuff from both shows in the Game Master and Player's Guide, and I know there's stuff in Captain's Log solo game. This is also one of the first, well, it was the first product I worked on where I had access to the Player's Guide, so I was able to use some of the new talents and things from that book as a reference. But that is what winds up giving way to the Lower Decks guides, which follow the same pattern, going seasonally. You got supporting characters, you got the ship. I didn't have anything to do with the Lower Decks books. Unfortunately, I would have loved to, because that's such a fun show. I enjoy it so much. But that's how they came to be. That's what we've got here. That's how they've kind of grown over the years. And that's where we are. I'm confident that we will see more of these as time goes on, because the shows are still ongoing. The acquisition of licenses is ongoing. I'd love to see some of the characters from Strange New Worlds. I'd love to see how they wind up. I mean, besides, obviously we've got Pike and Spock and Una, but I'm now reaching a point where I'm just rambling. So I'm going to call it a night here, guys. I appreciate you tuning in and listening to me ramble about how these things came to be. I hope that some of you have come to the conclusion that maybe they're not just cheap cash grabs, because I assure you they are. That was never the intention. But I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you for stopping by. Click like, click subscribe, let people know about it, spread the word. Live long and prosper, guys. And see you in the next one. Hopefully, it won't be such a long time. Good night.